All right. We are live inside the Real Estate Investing Mastermind group on Facebook. So welcome everyone. And it's just getting set up here, it looks like, on the stream. Again, for those of you that don't know me yet, my name is Douglas J. Beck. You can check me out at douglasjbeck.com. And you also got here from either myself or someone that you know from my team, probably reaching out to you and suggesting you to get into the group. And so thank you for being a part of our community. Here we talk about every single week real estate investing, and we share strategies and ideas and tactics and opportunities with you all to help you become a real estate investor or to grow as a real estate investor, depending upon where you are in your journey. I will mention right off the bat that I'm not here to sell you anything. This is totally free. We do have paid clients that are actually sitting right now inside of a Zoom room. So if you don't know that, it's just a Zoom, if you go to any sort of Zoom meeting, it's pretty much, we call it a Zoom room. And so that's a private group that is available to folks that want to become clients. If you want to learn more about what that looks like and why it would be important for you, you can check out jointhegrowthcollective.com. Again, jointhegrowthcollective.com. We're having some amazing successes. We've got a bunch of testimonials being loaded up on the website. We've got stuff happening behind the scenes, all kinds of stuff. Some cool relationships we're building with an automation partner about how to wholesale on a systematic way with like automation and tools, which is pretty powerful stuff. We'll probably have him come in the near future to actually give a presentation to this group specifically about that. But ultimately today, we're going to be talking about sourcing deals. We're going to be talking about where to find what we undervalued or discounted or distressed or any one of those things combined, real estate deals. And in full transparency, I'll tell you that the market is difficult right now. It's very difficult. Supply is short. It's been short for a while. Demand is still pretty solid. Although, I would say that some people have decided to take a seat and like step to the side. I think that most of the folks that I talk with, that I connect with, are not those folks. Most of them are out there just looking and being diligent. Like what we coach on inside the Growth Collective is all about diligence and analysis and how to source funding and how to properly underwrite a deal. By the way, I happen to actually own a fund with a partner. So I want to mention that here as well, that I am in the private money space. I own and operate a fund called KPRE Capital Group. If you're interested in that, you can check out the website, or you can go to realdirectlending.com. Realdirectlending.com has some information about the kind of capital that is available through our fund and also other partners. If we can't for some reason do it, if it's a deal that's a little bit out of the box, we might have somebody that can help. Right now, we've got a deal, for example, someone who might be in this room listening. It's a pretty large deal that's being worked on. I saw some of the term sheets come out. One was for like 3 million. Another one was for like 15 million. And he's got another project. This guy's a developer friend of mine. It's got an $85 million project in New York. So there's some significant deal sizes that we're looking at. There's also a lot of volume happening in California specifically, because that's where the fund was kind of started. My business partner, Phil, lives out there in Orange County. But all that stuff is really about funding. Today, we're here to talk about deals. So it's just, I'd like to break things down in two parts. You got one side, capital flow, which is your funding. And we've talked about that, even last week. I think we were talking about how folks can be passively invested into real estate, different strategies to use as a passive investor. Today, we're talking about the other side, though, which is deal flow, right? So deal flow has more to do with like sourcing opportunities, lead generation, maybe some phone work, some texting, some emails, some actual mail, social media. How do we leverage these things, these tools, these platforms, these ideas to ultimately get more deal flow, right? And so again, I'm not going to spill the beans totally on the process for automation. That is something we could talk about in private. If you guys have a question, again, set up an appointment at jointhegrowthcollective.com and make sure you mention to my team or myself that you're interested in learning more on that call about the automation part specifically. There's some really awesome stuff. We have at least one person in the room on Zoom right now that's actually going through that process to get his system set up, and really excited for what he's going to do and what others are going to do through this process. But for everyone else that's looking to do it kind of the organic way, or maybe have some type of paid strategy where you can go out there and send mail or do advertisements or whatever you're trying to do, today is going to be a refresher for many, but kind of like, conversations around what's working right now. And so just yesterday, in fact, my friend Lewis, so Coach Lewis coaches with us about once a month, typically. Really been awesome to have him come in. We had a free event that we did with him inside this group here about maybe a month or two ago. He's got like thousands of deals under his belt. This guy's been a broker, an investor, also help people buy and sell bank-owned properties and short sales and sheriff sales, all kinds of interesting things. So he came into the group yesterday during our power hour, again, the Growth Collective group, and he talked about strategies that he's seeing work And actually, I got to give him credit. I mean, he's awesome. He's obviously my friend. He's been somebody I've respected for a while, but he went through something in like 10 or 15 minutes that was so powerful about how he's sourcing deals and how he's ultimately selling those deals using a very simple process with taking on, here's my daughter. Sorry. Hey, sweetie, how you doing? Getting my, I always love my lunch. I love my kids. Here's London. So say hi to everybody. Hi. You're in a big group here, but
Hi,
thank you,
London.
sweetie. Love you. Okay. She's bringing me my lunch here, which I'm gonna have to pick on as I'm talking, but I'll get that after our meeting today. I'll probably be enjoying the rest of it. But ultimately, Lewis was talking about a strategy effectively, and I want you guys to start taking some notes here. And I want to also just quickly shout out and say thank you, Louise, for being here. Louise actually is working with us on the wholesale side. Really excited to work with her and really take her experience and apply that to some really awesome stuff that we have in our companies, but also help her become more of a real estate investor as well in the process and buy properties and grow her businesses as well. So appreciate her being here. If you guys could also, anyone who's listening to the live stream on Facebook, do me a favor and quickly just tell us where you're at, what city and state you're in and what brought you here, anything specific that brought you here, what you're looking to get from today. Same thing for our Zoom room and our clients. If you guys can let me know, what specifically you have a question about today when it comes to sourcing deals. You've heard me talk about in our coaching sessions in the Growth Collective a lot, but you've had questions about that. We've talked about strategies, but if there's something that still feels like it's missing for you, then by all means, my coaching group clients, the Growth Collective clients, please go ahead and use the chat, kind of stay engaged. And in the meantime, what you could do is just tell us, I kind of know where everybody's at, but maybe you're traveling or maybe you want to share the city and state, so I can kind of shout out. So maybe you guys could do me a favor. I believe Jasmine's up there in New York. I know Joe's up in New Jersey, Joe Gazzardi, and a few other folks here in the room. I can't see the whole list. Wendy's up in Canada, and we got other folks. But if you guys could let me know city and state where you're at on Zoom, that'd be awesome. And we can kind of take it from there. In the meantime, I'm going to have you guys grab your pen and paper, okay? Because this is going to be a lot of notes that you could take today. It's stuff that you could put into motion immediately. I'm probably not going to do a screen share. I was kind of thinking about that before when I was planning for this conversation, but I think it's going to be more about tactical, like step by step, and it's going to be super simple. Okay. So I want you guys to take down this website because this is going to be a tool that you use to do research and that you're going to use to create lists of deals, or not really deals, leads eventually that could become deals. Okay. You want to take down this website. The website is very simple. Nationwide sellerleads.com. So, we want to get seller leads. We want to get people selling property. We want to get it in multiple places. Maybe I know we do. We operate between New Jersey and Florida mainly, but I have clients all across the country. So nationwide sellerleads.com. That tool has a short trial period that you can try it out. By the way, shout out to Janet. She's also part of our group. Janet Neely's up there. Remind me, Janet, where you're based out of. And then Robert up in the Jersey Shore area. Louise is originally from Long Island, she says. So really appreciate you guys being here and staying engaged. And ultimately, though, that tool, nationwide sellerleads.com, has a trial period. What does that mean? Well, it has about a week that you can test it. You can test drive the tool. But here's the thing. That tool alone and any tool out there will not make you a real estate investor. Let's say that one more time. Any tool that exists in the market is not going to make you become a real estate investor by itself. There isn't an AI or some other type of technology that I know about that can decide for you, yes, you, to be able to buy a deal, buy a property, to be able to renovate a property, to be able to keep a property as a rental. No one can decide that besides you. Right? You have to decide that. So I would encourage you all, if you're struggling with that decision, if you're not sure yet, if you haven't figured this out to the extent that you're like, you know what? I am a real estate investor. I am going to be buying properties. I am already buying property. I'm deciding to fix and flip. I'm deciding to buy and hold. I'm deciding to do Airbnb or short or midterm rentals or some other type of strategy. I'm deciding to learn and become a creative real estate investor. If you haven't decided that yet, that is like step number one, right? So go back and watch the mental topics. We had a presentation about mental mindset stuff inside this group here. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, Joe? Was it like 2-3 weeks ago? We talked about mindset.
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago. So yeah, you already have the content in the group and you're hearing this in my group, either live or on replay. So just go through the feed. It might even be in the guide section. Okay. Just go through it and find the one about mindset. And you can go back and listen to some of the tactics that I coach my paid clients on and that I use in my own life to establish those decisions, to make those decisions that matter the most. Because see, I could sit here all day because my background's in technology. I worked in Johnson & Johnson, corporate America, right, for almost 10 years. I worked in IT, information technology, and I worked also in procurement, specifically for IT, basically buying IT stuff for J&J. So I had that experience. And sometimes I forget about that because it's been so long ago. It's like almost 10 years ago at this point that I was working in that position, in that role and in that company. But at the end of the day, when I go back and I say, man, I was actually coding stuff. I was using advanced Excel strategies, using VLOOKUPs and HLOOKUPs and pivot tables, all this crazy conditional formatting and stuff, taking these massive sets of data like through, Excel, but also even this thing called Access and SQL, all these different things. I was the guy doing that stuff right out of college, right? That was my job, my role, my focus. So if anybody is like leaning towards using technology or using systems to make deals happen, it's going to be me. And that's why I was excited one time, my buddy Ty, who runs this other group that we're working together with now that actually allows automation. When he shared with me what he's working on, and I realized how much time he took to put into, how much money he's poured into doing that and the way that it works, man, I was pumped. So again, if you want to learn more about automation, there's a place for that. But today is not about automating things. Again, the way to find out more about that is jointhegrowthcollective.com. If you literally want to automate your deal flow, like source deals on basically autopilot and then ultimately bring deals in that you could then sell or buy, jointhegrowthcollective.com, set up an appointment, talk to us about automation. Today is going to be the non-automated part, the decision-making, the analysis, the sourcing, the conversations, the relationships that you have to create to be a deal sourcer, right? You have to actually source opportunities. Remember I said I did procurement. Procurement also is called sourcing. Okay, so I want you guys to write this down. Sourcing equals deals. Like if you don't source, or if you do source, you're going to eventually have deals. Like if you don't, you won't. And if you do, you will. Like if you don't source stuff, what is sourcing? Let's write down the breakdown of sourcing. Sourcing starts with knowing what I want to source. Like I have to decide, here's the kind of property in the area that I want to buy in, and here's the kind of numbers that it needs to be. Let me go find out if this even exists. So how do I do that? Well, I have to create a list of what we call in sourcing requirements. Okay, what are our requirements as a real estate investor? I don't know. What are your requirements? Maybe you should write down some requirements. Maybe we should describe what I like to call, what others have called, and what funds and hedge funds and massive multi-billion-dollar institutions would call your buy box, your buy box. Okay. I want you all to write down the word buy box, the words buy box. Again, on Facebook, I see that you're there. Janet's in the Bronx. If you guys could just continue to stay engaged, if you don't mind, let me know you're here. And if you're getting value, just put the word value. If you're hearing me and you're getting value, just put the word value. I would appreciate that, to see that you're still plugged in, you're getting some good value, and others can see that you're also listening in, kind of showcase yourself a little bit, get some people to click over to your Facebook profile. Just put the word value if you hear me and you're liking what we're talking about so far. Okay. So when it comes to everybody sourcing and we talk about the buy box, right? The buy box basically describes in a detailed way what it is that I'm looking to buy. So when you remember that's what I told you, nationwide seller leads, nationwidesellerleads.com, you go to that site. But see, even if you signed up for the most largest investment, whatever they sell, it's like $100 a month. It might be more than that for certain ones. Even if you did that, it's not going to make the deal happen for you, right? You have to decide, what am I going to buy? You have to decide you're going to buy. And then if you decide that, what am I actually going to buy? Okay. So let's talk about today. It's again about undervalued. So this is inferring that we're getting stuff at a discount, right? It's undervalued or at a discount. So discounts will come from typically physical distress and or financial distress. Discounts will come from physical distress, number one, and also financial distress, or both, right? It could be either one of those or both. And so when you think about what you're looking to buy, you got to buy properties that could have physical distress or that could have financial distress. What do I mean by financial distress? Well, financial distress means that the person that owns the property, who's responsible for the property, is not able to keep up with it financially, whether that be taxes or other types of utility payments. They have utility liens, or their mortgage is behind, or they haven't paid their mortgage for months or years, whatever it is. Those are financial distress, or they're going through a tough life situation like a divorce, or they lost somebody in their family, or maybe this is an inherited home. Those are kinds of lead sources, right? Those are the kind of types of lead types, if you would call it that, that you might want to look at. So when you go to nationwidesellerleads.com and you go to see the different drop downs. I'm not going to demo it because I don't have this all figured out right now, how to do that on my screen with the right layout and showing you everything. Because it's actually it's our real system. Like it's not like a fake account that I made up just for the presentation. So I don't have that ready right now, right? Because it's got a lot of proprietary stuff in there. But if you go there and you click on the thing where it says sort by property type or by lead type, you're going to see stuff that has mentions of financial distress, tax liens, pre-foreclosures, those kinds of deals. You also might see vacant properties, right? A lot of folks in the industry, which I kind of take an issue with this a little bit, but I kind of get why they would do this. They tell folks and they educate and they coach and they do presentations, they sell courses on basically what's called high equity absentee owners. All right. So I'm going to say that one more time. And you guys can write this down so you have this note at least. High equity. What does that mean? Well, that means that they don't owe as much on the property that they actually own. They owe less than what is owned essentially. So that means that they're at 50% of equity, meaning that their mortgage might only be 50% or less of the actual value, right, of the property. Now, that's based on data. That's not based upon an appraiser going out to the property and doing an appraisal and then figuring out what their mortgage is. This is like somebody do some data sets to figure out what they think the equity is. And that's usually directionally correct. Sometimes it's totally paid off. It's totally free and clear. Here's the challenge though. If we go for the high equity, right? And if there's not physical distress, so write down if it's high equity, right? HE, high equity, plus physical distress, however you want to write that, physical PD, I guess, then if that's the case, maybe there's a chance that you can negotiate something because the property has not been kept up. But the one would argue, and I've always wondered this too, and I haven't figured this out yet, most people that have high equity are going to take care of their properties because their capital is associated to that property. They've earned that equity over a period of time, but it should be for most people that have that situation, the high equity owners are usually not going to have as much distress. Now, here's the thing. If they rent the property out though, who can make it distressed? I want you guys to play along here. Who's going to make the property get distressed if someone owns the property and it's high equity? Who can possibly cause damage to this property? You own the property, but you don't live in it. I want you all on Facebook to put in, who do you think could possibly destroy the property if you don't live in the property? Or on Zoom, and wait for you guys to kind of hear me out and then kind of put in a comment. Okay. Yep. I see a couple of comments. You're on the right track for sure. Tenants, right? Bad tenants, renters. That's what I'm seeing. So great job, Louise. Great job, Robert, and also Jasmine. So yeah, I mean, if you rent the property, if you don't live in the property, and let's say you own it free and clear, you bought this thing, or someone in your family bought it, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you paid off the mortgage or almost all of it or all of it, whatever. But then you're not living there because maybe it's an area that you moved out of, or maybe it's just always been an investment property, right? And you realize that, well, what do I need to do with this property? I'm not going to keep it vacant just by itself. That's not even safe in some neighborhoods to keep the property empty. People go in there and they do what's called squatting, right? One of our coaching clients just went through an experience where, as a husband and wife team, the two of them went through with a friend of mine and were able to get a very difficult situation handled by getting a squatter out of a property that was there for probably over 10 years. And they're in the process of renovating or rehabilitating that property or possibly even just selling it to another investor. So really exciting stuff. But what wasn't exciting was the fact of what they had to deal with. And so a property, when it becomes vacant and if it gets like neglected, a lot of times, someone can occupy it as a squatter if you don't place a tenant. So now we placed a tenant, we think we solved the problem, but then our tenants either don't pay, right? That happens, or they don't pay as often. They are late or they don't pay at all, right? It could be that. You have to look at evictions, things like that. So these are scenarios, or they physically distress the property, even if they pay, to the extent where someone has to go in and spend $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 or more. And you might say, what about security deposits? Right? If you know anything about real estate, what about security deposits? Well, you could have a security deposit, but sometimes it's more than that security deposit of damage, right? They totally mutilated the property. I don't know. Some people, it's not a derogatory comment. I'm just telling you, people live like in ways that I can't even imagine living. And it's just very sad, actually. It's almost like depression. And I pray for those people because it's so depressing seeing the stuff stacked up and there's garbage everywhere and the smells and like, not even like a hoarder house, but just like normal living with like, and again, no disrespect to anybody in this room. But when I see a picture of a property where the person has, and we had this in one of our coaching calls the other day, where they have like a very small, like thin, basic mattress with a sheet on it on the floor in front of the front door. And then they have their windows with like shaded, like blacked out blinds on them. to me, that's like, there's something going on here that's not good. Like it's either illegal activities or it's somebody that just really can't make it work. They're having somebody sleep on the floor, basically. I feel bad. I almost like want to donate like a bed and like get them in a room that actually makes sense, not the front door of the house. It's like kind of sad. So, but at the same time, like I told one of my clients just yesterday, I think it's our responsibility, everybody. It's really a responsibility we need to take serious to help people like that, to help people that own properties like that, to help people that are living like that in any way we can, to give them a place to live by being a landlord, by giving them a place to buy that they can buy from us as a fix and flip investor, and get them connected to somebody who does mortgages so they can just buy based on the payment. Maybe it's just making them aware of what it would take. So that's all good stuff. But again, from the sourcing process, right, which is what we're here today to talk about, we want to connect with people that have properties that are in physical distress or have financial distress, like I said. And so the absentee, what that means, absentee, if you're writing down notes, absentee means I'm not living in this home, right? I'm not, this address of this property is different than my own personal address. Usually that means absentee. So if we go to what the combo typically is, most educators, and I don't consider myself really an educator, I consider myself a coach and an implementer, and someone that actually lives and breathes this business and owns companies in this business. So that's what I consider myself to be, because it's kind of what I am. It's not, it is what I am. It's not even, it's just what I am. I'm a business owner in real estate. People ask me, what do you do? Well, I'm a real estate entrepreneur. Okay. So at the end of the day, it's not about me though. It's about you guys, right? And it's about helping others. And the fact is that educators don't always have the current to date, like knowledge and know-how of what's actually working, because they're not doing deals right now. But then the ones that do educate, that do deals, like my friend David and other people, Coach Rich, Coach Brendan, other people in the group, Phil, et cetera, like we all have experience, Lewis, like from doing real estate, like recently, as in like now, or like we're going to do deals, we have multiple things. So from my experience, right, actual experience, and from me actually spending and not investing, I call it, is really spending, but it kind of, if you look at it, it could have been an investment indirectly when I spent like $20,000 or $30,000 on just marketing in the beginning, the first 6 months of my real estate investment career, spent 5, 10, 15 grand almost a month sometimes, right? Pushing out marketing through direct mail and getting people to call me and setting up systems and follow-ups and doing all kinds of stuff. And then I paid people to help me take some of those calls as like an answering service when I couldn't take the call. And I invested the time and took the time to take those calls, make those calls, and all these people call me to what? I sent the mail, right? This is the point. I sent the mail that I, back then was 2014, to high equity absentee owners. All right. Why is this important? Well, it's because by me sending that mail out to those people, I did get a result. I probably over the course of 5, 6 months must have sent out, tens of thousands of pieces of mail. Like, and I say not me, like me writing it. I'm not talking about me printing it. I'm saying I pay a company to send out 2, 3, 4,000 pieces of mail a month, right, to a list of people. And you know what? I got a result. But you know what the result was? People calling me, complaining to me that they didn't want me to send them any more mail. You know what the result also was? People calling me to say, why do you keep on telling me you want to buy my house? I don't even own that house. People calling me saying, go, you know what, get lost. We don't like you very much. In other words, with some short 4-letter words that don't actually say it that nicely. Right. I'm from New Jersey, New York. So I'm used to hearing those things sometimes, unfortunately. If you guys know what I mean, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I was like, all right, you know what? This person's not really liking what I'm saying. I'm going to stop sending them mail. I'm going to just, and at some point I was like, this is not working. So what happened was, in my business, at least, and I'm just one investor, one coach here for you today, and I'm just sharing my experience, the direct mail process and the high equity absentee owners was not successful. And I'll tell you, looking back on it, and this is what I coach on now, the reason why, a couple of reasons why, and one thing, things you can learn is that the leads were not stacked properly. The thing is, I had just high equity absentee, and I had this list of thousands of people in states or cities or counties that I was marketing to. And I wasn't specific enough with stacking the leads. What I mean by stacking leads, like, hey, they have high equity absentee, but for some reason they have a tax lien. For some reason they're in pre-foreclosure for the little bit of money they still owe. Like, it's a smaller set of leads, but again, using the tool nationwidesellerleads.com, you could literally narrow down and stack your list to have 3, 4, 5, 6 what are called motivations. So you want to ask yourself, what's the motivation? What's motivating someone to want to sell this at a discount? Why would they take the equity that they earned and that they own and sell it to me at a discount. Well, because they need to, because if they don't, they're not going to be able to own the property anymore. So they might as well get what they can before they lose what they have, like that's the motivation. But there's a small group of people that this applies to. So here's what I'm saying. I believe that there's going to be people that are high equity absentees, but what I personally think is even better is just absentee, but with those other things. Like high equity is important, but I can negotiate what is becomes equity. That's where the people part comes in. See, like what I realized is that when I learned how to analyze deals, when I plugged into the mentorship that I was doing back then, which I was part of a $30,000 type of mentorship program from people on the West Coast, that was great experience and awesome individuals, but it didn't get me the real life in my market. It got me to know like how to do it. It was more like education and information, which is powerful, and also connection and proximity to people that were doing this. But it didn't actually do the work for me. And it didn't help me understand at the detail I needed to understand the way to negotiate or the way to analyze. And so what I've come to realize over the years, I started coaching folks like this, like I'm doing with you guys, in a small, office in New Jersey initially back in September of 2015. Right before I left corporate, actually kind of timed it that way so that I'd have this keeping me going while I was building my real estate investment businesses. I'd have something to look forward to every month, getting people together, because at that time it was a lot of phone work and emails and just like a lot of virtual, which is what it is now, right? But for a period of time, it was virtual. Then we went into an office, and then COVID happened. This is across like 6 or 7 years. I'm shorthanding it. But at the end of the day, in the office, we would be able to pass information about deals or leads or negotiate stuff on the phone, and almost like a call center type of sales floor, if you want to call it that, in an office, right? And then COVID happened, and COVID, pushed us out of the office. Now we've gone digital, and a lot of the world is digital. So we're in a Zoom room presenting in a Facebook group. Like it's pretty cool we could do. But I'm telling you though, you want to know like the lead types, and you want to understand where we're going with this. So when you're analyzing the deals though, is where it matters the most, right? The analyzing of the deals. I'm going to give you guys a tool, which some of you have heard me talk about, especially if you're part of the Growth Collective. If you haven't heard me say it yet, this tool alone is worth more than what, way more than we pay for it for a year. And it's like $20 a month. It's ridiculous how much value this tool brings. But if you go to runyournumbers.com, runyournumbers.com is the link that's going to take you to this tool that when you combine it with the nationwide seller leads and the Run Your Numbers, you put those two things together, and you have now a way to source deals using data. And I'm going to talk about some of that process in a second here for our second half of our conversation. You could source the deals or the leads that you want to talk to, but you also have a tool that helps you analyze those opportunities in a very systematic way that's easy to understand and something you could present to somebody else. So I want to check in real quick one more time. If you're on Facebook and you're getting some value, just tell me again, some value. If you have a question, even better yet, if you have a question about sourcing deals, about analyzing those deals you're sourcing. Same thing on Zoom Room. If you guys have any questions or things you want to talk about, by all means, please go ahead and put that into the chat, and then we'll keep on going here. So let's see. I see a couple folks. I see Ty's in here. Ty liked us. Costas is here. What's up? Kevin's here. Excellent, guys. I see your likes up top, and we got some folks in the room. Ali, great job with tenants. I see that there. I'm going to like that. And Luis is just killing it with the comments. I love it. And then let's see, Robert from the Jersey Shore. Joe's in the room. Thank you, Joe, for dropping the links there. Excellent. And then Janet, of course, I see Janet's there up in the Bronx. And we got Gabriel in the room. Gabriel, appreciate you, man. All right, buy box. So we didn't cover the buy box enough, I feel like, and we're going to come into that in a second. So I see that value. Excellent. Okay, cool. So analysis, like what am I going to analyze, right? So now I'm sourcing deals using this tool, using this process, looking for distressed real estate, distressed financial situations. And that tool will help you basically sort out the leads. And then you're going to do what's called skip trace those leads, right? If you want to call them or text them, you could skip trace them. And if you want to also, you could send mail directly from the tool, but with a smaller list. We're not talking about sending thousands of people one message. We're talking about sending hundreds of people 5, 10, 20 messages, as in like mail, phone, text, etc. It's about going deeper. It's not about going wider. Okay. So we're going to address this in a second here. I see a couple of questions. Thank you guys. Thank you, Robert, and also Costas for asking us questions. I'm going to come into that in a second. So when it comes to this tool, runyournumbers.com, runyournumbers.com is going to be the counterpart in the analysis part of it when you're trying to figure out, should I proceed and make an offer? And is this really a motivated seller, or is this someone looking to sell retail? Okay. I'm going to give you guys, again, the process, and I'm going to tell you kind of what it sounds like. And I'm going to tell you what you do after that. This is kind of the rest of the meeting here. We're going to go through some questions. The process is you're going to use that tool to source. They're talking about off market. This is off market property sourcing. Okay. A lot of what I coach on is actually not this. I want to be congruent with that in terms of saying why it is. I coach on stuff that's more difficult to teach than it is what I'm talking about now. Okay, I want to be that even more clear. I coach on the stuff that matters for you to be able to figure out who you are, what you're looking to do, and go tell other people in your local real estate community about that. That's the style that I coach on that I find to be the most valuable. So if you want me to be fair to this group here listening to me, you have to be okay with building relationships with people that already get deals, but that's too easy and that's not enough depth for today's conversation. So I'm going through some of the stuff like that's too easy to say, right? It's difficult to do, but easy to say. Today, I'm going to tell you what's easy to do in some ways and easy to teach, but isn't always as effective, because what happens is, data shows us that 95% plus of real estate happens on the MLS, right? And so 5% left over for us to go try to chase off market. And if you're a newer investor, and even if you're using the best tooling, you're still going to be one of many people looking to get those few motivated sellers that exist in your local market. So this is why people have gone virtual. This is why people have done joint ventures. This is why people realize that sometimes it's better to sit on the sidelines or even just passively invest while someone else does all the sourcing stuff. So, but with that being said, I'm still going to give you today, because you don't know, maybe it applies for some of you sitting here now. Maybe it's going to apply in the future. I'm going to give you the framework, okay, of the process of how you can go find deals off market, how you can talk to some of those people or attempt to talk to some of those people, and kind of the system and process, if you would, around that. So you have something to consider, but just know, full disclaimer, this doesn't always work the way you want it to. And I just told you before, we did a lot of mail, we made mistakes. We went really wide and not deep. We also didn't have the right lead types when we were doing a lot of direct mail, but I also didn't have a lot of experience. So another thing I'll say is that most of you that are not experienced should not be spending money on marketing. I said it one more time. Most of you, not everybody, but most of you that are not experienced as a real estate investor should not be spending money on marketing. What you need to be thinking about is who's already spending money on marketing, usually that, that individual may not have anyway, and how can I add value to the individual who's already making those investments into marketing? And that's a whole nother conversation. We could talk about it again. Join thegrowthclub.com. Set up an appointment, talk to my team. We'll talk about it, in a conversation as you come in as a guest, or you want to come in and join us, whatever it is. But we coach on that too, how that works. But outside of that, right, sourcing deals on your own, so to speak. Because remember, you can also leverage people in a small little company like a VA or a person that works alongside of you as an agent or as a associate, right? You can leverage people, but doing it yourself or selves, if you have a little company, is time intensive, and it's also sometimes costs or makes, it requires an investment of sorts, okay? Time and money. So if you're still with me and if you still want to learn that stuff, then by all means hang out and just stay with us. We're going to talk about the stuff that requires time and money, right? And I know that's going to exclude some people for whatever reason, but if you want to get stuff that doesn't require time and money, then I'm telling you right now, join thegrowthcollective.com. Set up an appointment. This will be just supplemental to that. Okay. So you're welcome to hang out and stay, or just go set up an appointment and talk to somebody today, tomorrow, or early next week. The process for the stuff that is, for some of you low hanging fruit, but others like not even worth considering because it requires too much time and too much money in some cases. Here's the process. Step one, you're going to identify a market. You're going to figure out, where am I going to invest? And why do I want to invest there? We should have already done that. This is like after you do that, right? So we're not going to spend a lot of time on that. The next thing you're going to do is, what kind of properties do I want to invest into? And am I going to be doing wholesale? Am I going to be doing fix and flip? Am I going to be buy and hold? Am I going to do a little bit of everything? What does that look like? Okay, we got that covered, right? So we're writing these down. It's like step one, step two. Okay. Step three is, where do I go find those properties that I want to buy in that market? And I just gave you some examples. You can go to local RIA events. You can go to people that, you can meet online that have deals. Those are called wholesalers, or sometimes real estate agents have deals. But if you don't want to go that route, or if you want to supplement that with some stuff that you can control more directly, the output and the marketing of, and you have some resources of time and or money, then you can go this route, which is the next step we're going to talk about, which is basically off-market deal sourcing. Okay. you're going to be generating leads. I want you all to understand, write this down. The word lead is not the same as deal. The word lead, it sounds silly, but it's not the same as deal. It just happens to have the same letters in it though, just a different arrangement. Okay. If you switch the L and the D, it becomes deal. And that's interesting, right? But the fact is, it's not the same though. Okay. It's actually almost the opposite a lot of times because there's so many leads that have been generated. Someone asked this question just to get one deal. So this is the difficult part. Okay. Especially if you're not targeted. Okay. If you're not targeted, which is, I recommend you get very targeted location, targeted lead type, targeted type of property. You make that list of what I call your buy box, where I'm investing, what kind of properties I'm investing, and where do they get those properties from? You talk about what those things, and also maybe if the property has distress, like, are you willing to do renovations? And I say you as an owner, not as the person doing the work, which is a whole nother thing we talk about. Again, join the growthcollective.com. Can't emphasize it enough. You guys are so much value in that group. We're seeing clients doing some amazing things, doing one property, two properties, five. Like there's people blossoming as a real estate investor inside of 90 days of working with us. And it's just awesome to see that. So really, really excited about that. In fact, I want to mention, we do have a 90-day close a deal guarantee, right? And I'm just going to quickly commercial break on this. How does that work? If you join the Growth Collective, and if you don't close your next deal within 90 days, as a client coming in as of today, this is the current offer, it may not be here forever, we will continue to work with you for free until you close your first deal or your next deal, if you're in the middle of a rut right now, or whatever the case is. So literally whatever the investment is, which there is a financial investment, whatever that looks like is going to be multiplied, right, in some period of time, hopefully within 90 days, hopefully within 30 or 60 days. But if not, you got the 90-day backing guarantee. So literally you have our commitment that you're going to be part of our group, part of our community, until you close your first or your next deal after deciding to work with us. And so we hold that very seriously. It's a pretty powerful offer, of course, but it's also, that means a lot to us that we want to honor. So again, we have success stories. You can see the page. If nothing more, just look at the jointhegrowthcollective.com page and read all the testimonials, and really amazing things happen. And some of those people, the testimonials that are there are like when they first got started. Some of those people have done some amazing things even since then that we just haven't gotten them to put into a testimonial yet. So really, really cool stuff. But again, buy box, right? Buy box. Let's focus on this. If I don't know what I want, I'm not going to find it. It's like a Tony Robbins concept, right? Like if you don't have clarity of what you want, you're probably not going to find it. So before you go click a bunch of buttons to go sort some leads out and figure out who I'm going to call or text or mail, if you're doing this off-market sourcing stuff, which is what you need to consider doing, if you're not good at building relationships, you don't want to do that, or whatever the case is, and you really enjoy the chase, the hunt, if you would, hey, so be it. That's just not really what I'm called to do. I'd like to build relationships personally, but some people want to go out there and chase, opportunities, and that's fine. And maybe that's you. Again, just being real with you guys today, because I'm always that way. I'm always very just transparent, authentic about what I feel and what I need you to hear, because we got to understand, why am I doing this? Why is it that I'm going to take this on as a project or something I do as part of my routine? Well, know the following, that you got to be clear about what you want, and you got to be clear that there's not as many things that you want as there is other people that, like you, want to buy the same thing. Basically, it means that there's really low supply of what you want to buy, no matter what you want to buy. Compare it to the demand for that same thing that you want to buy. So what does that actually mean? That's the word that I like to just simplify. It's competition. Okay. There's competition. Okay. Somebody do me a favor on Facebook. Just put the word competition if you hear me right now. Competition. So I happen to be an athlete, right? My friend, actually, my childhood buddy Costas is in the room, so I don't know if he's still with us or not, but he's on the meeting here. But he asked the question. So I've known Costas for probably close to 20 years, if not more than 20 years, actually, a little bit more. But we've kept in touch on and off. And so, the fact is, he knows that I was an athlete. I played basketball. I did track and field. I was a thrower in college. I did that competitively. So I've always had the competitive drive. Yes. But I don't particularly like to think of competition just as competition. I say, how do I turn my competition into my collaborative partner? How do I make someone that's usually my competition my collaboration partner? And so that's the stuff that I coach on also, is taking what appears to be your competition in your market and finding ways to collaborate with them strategically to actually do more deals than you can do by yourself or that they can do by themselves. And again, join thegrowthcollective.com. Just say it one more time for you. So fact is, competition exists no matter what, though. In this particular business, a lot of competition. There's people paying for clicks online. There's people sending, call centers that call people religiously every day, hundreds of calls a day. There's people sending thousands of text messages and doing things that are soon going to be, if not already in some states, illegal to do because of different laws that are being put in place because people are getting spammed. Right. I was with my friend John over the weekend, and he's showing me a text that he got about his father's house somewhere in Florida. And he's like, I get these things all the time. Like, what's this about? We started talking about it. It's just like people are getting lists of phone numbers, like we're going to talk about, you could do, but you have to be very careful what you do because of do not call compliance, and also with this different spamming on text. That's, laws being put in place for that. There's a lot of regulation already happening and soon to happen more. So we have to understand that the market is changing, and there's restrictions being put in place intentionally, so because people have abused these kind of privileges, I will call it privileges, but it's a lot of work. Okay. So what we're going to do, though, all that aside, is again, go back to your process, right? Step one is going to be all that stuff about picking your market, pick your property, et cetera. Buy box, define your buy box. What are you willing to do? What are you not willing to do? And then step two, if you want to call it the bucket two, is going to be, okay, let's go source nationwide, sellerleads.com. You're going to use that to source. What you're going to do is pick some lead types, right? So like tax liens, inherited properties, you could do absentee owners, you could stack those up, vacant properties, right? And you could see what kind of leads exist in my market. All right. What kind of amount of properties exist that are like this in my market? And you might have to adjust your parameters a little bit. You might have to say, I'm going to go either wider in terms of my geographic focus, or I'm going to go less stacking of lead type. I might just say only two or three things versus 4 or 5 things in this particular market, because maybe the properties might be spread out, or maybe there's just not enough of those kind of properties that have those conditions. And what's going to happen is this data tool, right? It's going to give you the answers of the leads. It's not going to make the calls for you, though. And we don't even know the phone numbers necessarily. So what it does, it gives you a list that you could download, and you have access to that data at any time. It tells you all the stuff about the property. You could even like pay money, a little bit of money, $5 a thing, to get like the documents. If you want to do like a title search almost, you can do that with the tool. You can see documents that were recorded, pay a small fee, but you can also do what's called, which is very important, skip trace. I want you all to write down the word skip trace, or 2 words, I guess. It might be skip dash trace. Who knows? It's something like that. It's not a common word we use. What skip tracing is saying, I have this person that I believe lives at this address or has a property at this address. I want to take that information and match it up in that database to this other database that exists that has the person and their phone number, right? So I'm going to give you another tool you could check out that has this. There's a tool called Fast People Search, I believe. There's another tool that I've used in the past called Intellius. So Fast People Search or Intellius or some other type of True People Finder is another one, I think. There's all these tools, but within this nationwide sellerleads.com tool, it actually has built into it batch skip tracing, right? So batch skip tracing means I could press a button to get the full set of leads I want, maybe 100 leads, 100, 200 leads, 500 leads, whatever it is. And I could press a button and say, I want to skip trace all of these. I don't want to do one by one. It's too long to do that. If I have 100, 200, 500, I want to press a button. So you press a button and then you pay between 15 to 50 cents per lead, depending upon what it is and how many. The numbers, I don't have the exact because I don't have that right in front of me, but it's going to be minimal to get those phone numbers. And it's going to give you as many numbers as the system could possibly find that might be that person. Now, here's where it gets interesting though, right? You've got this set of data based on lead type and motivation. You've got the skip trace process they were running through, but now we have this list of names and phone numbers. What do you all think has to happen next? I'm going to ask you to see if you're paying attention. What has to happen next with this list of names and phone numbers of targeted leads that I decided to create using a tool called nationwide sellerleads.com? What do you have to do next once you have that list of names and phone numbers? I'm going to wait for Facebook, but Jasmine's got it inside of Zoom. I got that. Facebook, you guys listen. I see Dawn. What's up, Dawn? And Robert says, skip trace. Thank you guys for participating. So Louise says, yes, they need to be contacted. Jasmine says, hey, why don't you have someone else call them like a VA? That's right. Right. So why don't I just take that list of names and numbers and have either myself, if I've had the time and ability and interest, or have a virtual assistant? And there's a whole nother conversation about virtual assistants. I think we've done a training about virtual assistants, but if we haven't, that's probably a good topic to loop in, depending on our schedule, what we have lined up already. But I'm happy to do that. And again, if you want to learn more about virtual assistants and actually get one installed and plugged into your team, go to jointhegrowthcollective.com, because we have a service also where we can literally help you find and hire and train a virtual assistant into your business, which would allow you to then not have to worry about your time limitation. So we've done that for multiple clients as well. We don't really offer that to the public. We just do it for our paid clients because we think it's something special that, they should get as far as something that, an added perk that we can offer to you. All right. So somebody has to call them. Okay. Well, the question is, it sounds silly, but what phone are you going to use to call them? Here's a trick question for everybody. What phone do you think you should use to call them? Well, Doug, of course, the phone I have in my hand right now that I'm watching this on, or Doug, the one that I have in my hand that we're doing text message or scrolling through Facebook because you're not totally listening to me right now. I'm just joking with you guys. It's been like 45 minutes, but no, it's not the number that you have on your phone. Okay. We need to delineate and segment and protect our personal numbers and our business numbers from this outbound cold calling outreach. Okay. I call it that outbound cold calling outreach. So this is a process. We're going to take, let's say 200 leads, and they're going to have 2, 3, 4, or 5 numbers maybe listed as potential phone numbers. And there's another tool that is most commonly used that I know about. There's multiple tools out there, but there's a tool called Mojo Dialer. Mojo, that's a shout out to Robert actually for saying dollar. So Mojo Dialer, right? Mojo Dialer is actually used by a lot of real estate agents to do this exact thing. And they have a system and a process set up where, again, without getting all the details, they make sure that you can load your leads up and actually press a button. And then the thing starts dialing for you up to, I believe, 3 numbers at a time. And then it's got a whole thing about who answers. And, if someone else answers, well, you answer the one, it has like a drop of a voice message or possibly say, hey, I got to call you right back. It's pretty interesting how it's set up, but at its most basic level, dialing out. You could also use a free tool like Google Voice. But again, with that Google Voice, I believe it's free still. Double check. I haven't used it in a long time. We have a paid tool that we have in our company that's different than that. But for mostly warm or conversational stuff with clients or other people. But when it comes to cold outreach, we've used Mojo Dialer and we've also used Google Voice. I used Google Voice really early in the beginning. The thing with that is that Google Voice still requires you to put in the phone number to dial and hit the go button and call. Mojo has a system where you can batch load the leads. At least last time I used it, it did. Again, don't quote me on this because I don't do this every day. Like I told you, I'm more about relationships and connections with other people that have deals. But a lot of our clients, that have used this, and I've seen it firsthand, load the contacts into there and then press go, and it basically dials for you. And they've got all the compliance stuff sorted out. So that's on them. It's not something I can control. Because there is laws around this stuff, right? You have to consider do not call. Make sure you scrub. There's a process to scrub your list, which is built into one or both of those tools, as far as I know. But make sure you're calling people that are allowed to be called, right? Make sure you're texting people that are allowed to be texted. That's very important. We press the go button. Someone answers the phone. Excellent. Okay. Hey, hello? Yeah, who is this? What's this about? Hey, listen. Hey, my name is Doug. I'm looking to see if you're the owner of property ABC 123 Street, 123 ABC Street. Yeah. So what? What do you need? What's this about? You trying to sell me something? And then you go through your process. I'm gonna get into that. Or it might be, hey, you call them. Hey, hello. Yeah. How you doing? This is Doug. I'm actually I'm looking to buy some property in the area over there, and I don't know if maybe you knew somebody was looking to sell their house. I buy homes all across this area, and I just happened to get your number from somebody, and my team said that you might have a property or know somebody who's interested in selling, right? Like that's you can come out at a direct, like, hey, are you looking to sell your property at XYZ address? Or you could be like, hey, I'm just curious. I got your number from somebody saying that you might be interested or have somebody who's interested in selling their home in this area. I know it's kind of random. I know you're thinking like, why is this guy calling me? And you can kind of, play with that a little bit depending upon the person's tone and how they kind of take your call or don't take your call a certain way. You can joke around. You want to find a way to connect real quick within like 5 seconds and build some kind of rapport. And that's why I said it depends on their tonality and how they respond to when you answer the phone. Hello, like they're, hello, hey, how you doing? Like I want to, hello, hey, how you doing? Like I'm going to cut in. If they're going real tough to talk to, I'm going to be a little bit tougher. They're like, hello, hey, how you doing? My name's Doug. I came across your information. And then they're going to maybe cut in and say like, hey, wait, what is this about? Well, listen, I know I kind of caught you off guard. If it's not a good time, I totally understand. I'm looking to pick up a property in the area. And I heard someone in my team told me you might have a property in XYZ area. Would you at all be interested in selling? No, I'm not interested at this time. Thank you. Take me off your list. Okay, great. No problem. Hang up the phone. Mark it as not interested. Okay, we do this, or you have someone do this literally 50 to 100, maybe 200 calls a day. All right. Now that doesn't sound that exciting for most people. For some people, like, man, it sounds awesome. Like, I love that. If you're interested in doing that, I'll just say that I'd love to talk with you about that. So if you want to call, if you're a caller, put the word caller somewhere. If you want to be the caller, there's a good chance that myself or someone in my team could benefit from someone that wants to just hit the phones and call people. Okay. So if you would think yourself as a caller, cold caller, which is a skill set, by the way, where you want to become that, just put the word caller or send me a DM on wherever you're hearing this in Facebook or somewhere else. And I'd love to have a conversation because there's a chance that I know someone that could benefit from what you want to do there, what you're good at doing, what you like to do. All right. So then that's one way, right? But then the question is, let's say that they don't answer the phone, but you still have this lead and you're like, well, how else could I communicate with this person? The next way we want to think about is texting them. All right. Texting them. And your texting can be done one-to-one. There are some tools out there. I'm not going to vouch for any because honestly, it changes pretty fast. And I can't tell you that we've done texting in the past probably year and a half, 2 years as a company, at least not on scale. So I don't want to quote any tools and then you guys go and say, oh, this tool is horrible or it never works, whatever. It just, I don't have the confidence to tell you a tool, unfortunately, that does this for cold. There are tools out there that exist. I just be very careful if you're doing mass texting, especially because it's very easy to say, well, this person texts me out of nowhere. I don't know who they are. And then someone says, I want to report this to the FTC or something like that. This guy or gal is just constantly sending me texts and I'm on a do not call list and you can get fined for stuff like that. So you have to be very careful with that because you're getting in their personal space or their phone, right? And there's laws around that. So I would say better than that would be a one-to-one and maybe be a little more delicate, right? Like, hey, I just tried giving you a call. I see you have a property in the area I'm looking to buy. I know it's kind of random. If you have any interest on selling or know someone in the area that is looking to sell, I'd love to have a conversation. I'm not interested. Take them off the list. Okay, no problem. Mark it down. Take them off the list. We're not going to mess around. We're not going to try to chase people that don't want to be contacted. That's not the point of this. We're not going to try to twist someone's arm. As soon as they tell you no, it's a no. This isn't, I saw somebody, and I think it was on our team, which was a great idea. Usually no can mean like the next opportunity. And it kind of is that, right? Or not right now is another way of putting it. But in this case, this particular lead is not someone that I would recommend or at all suggest to follow up with at this time, anytime soon, if they straight up tell you no. Now, if someone says, well, I'm not interested right now, but tell me more about how your process works or what number would you offer me? Like that's inclination to then have a conversation. So you might want to say, hey, listen, I'd love to have the conversation with you right now, but I got a couple of things popping up on my schedule. I wanted to just give you a quick call, check in, see if you'd all even be interested in this. If you are in fact interested, I'd love to set up a time to talk. What's a good time for you? Is it later on today at 3 o'clock or tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock? Or you might just say, hey, they got 15 minutes now. Do you have 15 minutes right now to talk through some things? I'd like to learn more about the property if you happen to have that, right? So you have to think, which way am I going to navigate this conversation? When you get, quote unquote, as they say, and it's not my saying, a fish on the hook, right? When you catch a fish on the hook, you got to figure out how to reel it in without it falling off the line. I'm not a great fisherman, to be honest with you, although I would love to learn more about it. My son wants to go fishing more often. So it's like, hey, I mean, I got to learn the technique of fishing, right? It's not just like throw the line and then reel in real fast. Like it's going to be a process and a technique. So you have to kind of understand that. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and take a couple of questions here and then we'll come back into it. So Robert says, how many leads should I pull monthly to be consistent and get a deal? You know, that's a great question. It's very difficult to answer that without some more details. I can tell you that it's going to take dozens or hundreds or maybe even thousands to get consistency. It's not going to be like 5, 10, 20, or even 100, maybe in a lot of cases. It's going to be hundreds of leads. These are non-qualified, non-spoken with yet leads we're talking about. It's going to be something that it's going to be a process over a period of time. So the calls that I make are not going to be just one call and then never call that person back. I'm going to call. I might even drop a voicemail or have my team do that. And then I'm going to call again in a week or 2 weeks or even a few days, depending upon how much I want to push for that property. Maybe I know the property because I drove by it and I can see the grass is high and it's time sensitive. I might call them every single day until they answer or hit me back with a text or a voicemail, right? That's the process, but it just depends. So the question of how many, it's really specific to your market and specific to your kind of properties you're buying and specific to also the kind of, deal flow that already exists there. So I hope that kind of helps a little bit. Okay. Costa says, random question, maybe for a different discussion. How has insurance situation affected your Florida deals? It's affected it a little bit. I mean, insurance is more expensive now than it was like, a year ago. But so are mortgage rates higher and people are still buying. And so are everything. The world is in an inflated state right now. So there's generally more money available still though in the market of people that have capital, people that have, discretionary income. There's still, in my mind, at least in this part of Florida, there's still enough people that have enough money to buy, even with higher insurance, and properties still can cash flow. but it's causing us to think about it for a second and figure out how can we properly maximize the cash flow on this particular deal with the insurance being a little bit higher. So that's a great question, but definitely there's still activity. Dawn on Facebook, how you doing, Dawn? Good to see you there. So what do you recommend to know what to do as a new investor when market keeps changing and when networking gets differences of opinion? It's confusing. That's why I just do what works with my skill sets. Yeah, I mean, just stick with what you know, stick with what is working for you. So one of our coaching calls this week, Dawn, we talked about this. It was basically like, and I think I heard it from one of the challenges that I'm a part of, another group, personal development group. It's kind of like, do what you love and love what you do. So stick with what you love to do and that you're really good at doing. And so, for example, if you love to talk to people and you're good on the phone, then maybe cold calling would actually be something you could blossom at, even though you're calling people who don't know you yet, because maybe people just gravitate to want to talk with you. So that could be a special skill or talent that you have. Maybe it's not cold calling. Maybe it's calling the leads back that your cold caller person really reached out for you. And now you're the one that helps make the deal happen because you're likable on the phone, you have a personality, all that kind of stuff. It just depends, right? Because you have, like I talk about, there's two main buckets, right? There's deal flow stuff, and then there's capital flow stuff. So deal flow is going to be the sourcing, the analysis, the negotiation, the going into contract, getting this property like ready to go to close. As you're doing that, second half of that deal flow activity, or someone else is doing it, you got to be thinking about capital flow as far as money going to that deal, investing your capital, someone else's capital with you, or borrowing capital or selling the deal. That's still a capital flow conversation. That's called disposition. So when we look at those two buckets and we figure out like, what do I do first? It's kind of like pick one side, I would say. Focus on either deal flow or capital flow to start. If you focus on deal flow, the things you can expect is a lot of people that are upset with you in the beginning because you're calling them. If you're trying to source deals, right, or message them or mail them, they're going to be a lot of people that are just like kind of complaining, and rejection is going to be kind of high. So if you're not ready for like that kind of level of people saying no, 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 stop, get lost, it's not probably not the best move for anybody listening to me to deal with that. So then you move into the next phase. Having somebody else do that pushes you into deal analysis. Deal analysis is great for like a number cruncher, like a person that enjoys math, that enjoys calculations, that likes to use tools and analysis stuff. That's a great thing to use. Have that person or yourself look at doing stuff there. And then we move into negotiation as a third thing. So the third thing is negotiation. That's where you're making the offer. So maybe you have somebody else do the first two, Dawn, or somebody else is listening to me, but you focus on negotiation, making the offers. Once you talk to your team that does the analysis, you make the offer, you negotiate a deal, you get it put in, on writing. Then we move into contracts. Contracts is very much connected to negotiations, but contract relationship with analysis too. Like, it just depends. Looks like we cut out for a second. I think I saw Joe come off of mute and then my connection. Are you guys hearing me right now?
Yeah, continued where you left off.
Oh, it continued.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of weird. All right. So just to wrap this up, we're kind of coming out of time pretty fast here, but you got those four buckets on the acquisition side. And then we got basically sort of bridging from acquisition or deal flow activity to now disposition if you're wholesaling, or capital flow activity. If you're in the bucket of buying property as an investor and owning the property either as a fix and flip or a buy and hold, we're going to be thinking about, what kind of leverage is available to me? What can I do with my capital or the capital that's available to me to borrow or invest into this deal that I just found that someone else maybe gave to me to look at, a wholesaler, an agent, or somebody else, or either I had my team prepare it and get it under contract. Now it's like capital flow. I say capital flow attracts the deal flow. So a great deal should be able to get capital flow, involved, like pretty simply. So it's like the deal flow, if it looks enticing, will attract that capital flow, meaning people want to invest in the deal. You should want to invest, but if you tell your friends, family, other people about it, like network of investors, you should also have a good amount of interest if the deal is obvious, right? And so if you do a great job in the first four steps and you have an obvious deal, the capital flow will just kind of suck that deal up and say, yes, let's do this. If you have a challenging deal or something that's bigger out of the box, now it's a question of like, what's your capital flow like database looking like? Do you have contacts that have the right kind of capital to match to that deal? So there's some different things there. So, and you can focus just on capital flow stuff. So if someone who, again, like Dawn, I know you pretty well, I'd say you definitely want to make sure you're investing time and focus on the capital flow side, because once you sort out with what you have as your skill set, as I see it, at least, and knowing you fairly well, I believe connecting with people that have capital, connecting with investors that you could find ways to add value. Like Dawn has, I believe, interior design and like creative skills that are beyond what a normal person has. So she's going to have that as one of her talents, so she could bring value to another investor. And I've seen people earn 10, 15, 20%, 30% of a deal by just helping bring an element of that deal from making it better, right? Like I've been one of those people before. So your first deal or your next deal, like really could be just negotiating yourself a profit share, or even getting paid something plus a profit share, or not even having a profit share, just getting paid something to go work alongside of an investor. And then that's going to then open up doors for other stuff. So quick story, and then I got to go through whatever questions we have and then finish us up with you guys. One of the deals in California that my partner is working on and I was brought into to help with, essentially, I'm going to keep it kind of generic because it's not done yet, but I'll tell you at a high level this example. Essentially, there's two individuals that want to come into that opportunity to actually help with that property, run the renovation, do the renovation, but also they have capital to put towards that. And so these two individuals met with my partner, recently, and essentially they negotiated a deal where they would take on full responsibility, but my partner has a limited responsibility. So he's negotiated where he's getting a fair return on the time that he's putting in, like more than fair, essentially almost doing like what I call a hybrid wholesale, right? A hybrid wholesale in my book, we talked about this in one of our meetings, is where I can negotiate something up front, but I also negotiate something on the back because I bring value in both ways. I bring value to put the deal together, and then I also bring value throughout the project and upon completion. So you might want to consider that too, Dawn, and others that are listening. Like we have a whole training about hybrid wholesale. If you need that, you guys can just message me the word hybrid, 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 and we'll get that over to you. Great question. Awesome. Janet says, Doug, this is a great session. Very interesting topics, extremely valuable for a newbie. Unfortunately, have to hop off for work. No sweat. You got it. Appreciate you being here. And then let's see. Jasmine just kind of summarizing here. Oh, the fourth thing cut out. Okay. Sorry about that. So it's the deal flow bucket is sourcing, deal analysis, negotiation, which is making the offer, and then contracts, right? And then basically preparation to close and contracts is what that is. And then we actually close, but we close because capital flow is coming in to close. It's allowing us to close. It's enabling, empowering us, giving us the capital to close. All right. I think that's everything. Luis is here. Awesome. Robert, awesome. And business line. Yep. Excellent. So, hey, listen, everybody, I really appreciate your time invested here with me today and every week that we get together. Do me a favor, share this with somebody that you care about. If you're getting value, share with a family member or friend, throw it on Facebook. Put up the link. It's just thereimastermind.com. We do have an affiliate program as well, not for the free community, but if you have somebody that you think could benefit from working with us inside the Growth Collective, and if you're already a client, even more the reason, make sure you have the links to share with somebody so that we can thank you by giving you a referral fee when someone signs up underneath your connections or your network. And if you don't know what I'm talking about and you're like, what is this Growth Collective thing he keeps on talking about? Join the growthcollective.com, has a lot of details and a very short video, but also some testimony of different people that are having success. People like Jasmine, people like Joe even is having some success. I know he's working on some really cool stuff. Wendy, there's folks in here that, just are doing some amazing things. Jenny and Glenn, Felipe, Rich Socon, all these, I could keep going. There's a long list of people. So basically, we're across the whole US. I mean, I don't have any besides Wendy right now, international clients, but I'm considering maybe thinking about how I could help people in different parts of the world, because I do have some connections there. I just haven't really offered anything to help them. But right now, we have clients in about 20 different states. So even if you're just like, you have deals, but you don't know how to get rid of them, and you want to tap into a community of people that are buying deals, that are getting coached on how to buy property properly, and also buying stuff now, then you might want to consider the community offer that we have, which again, join the growthcollective.com, just ask about the community. It's essentially a little bit less of an investment to get started, but we still have coaching, live coaching multiple times a week, full access to the team, a Slack channel, a private place you could talk with us essentially and ask questions. And we're seeing a lot of people even in the community having some real success and getting some momentum. So lots of educational, but also implementation focused type of stuff we do there. So again, join the growthcollective.com. Would love for you to take a look at that, schedule an appointment, and also share it with a friend. But if you're a client, make sure you get the affiliate link. If you're not a client, I believe we might have a way to get you an affiliate link but I'd be curious why you're listening to me and just want to be an affiliate. If you're really a real estate investor and you're not yet part of our group, I would love to invite you to the group and hopefully help you make it to the next level. So until then, God bless you guys. Have an awesome rest of your week and have a great weekend. And I'll speak to you soon.